All right, everybody, welcome back. So last time we went ahead and we checked out how to make rooms with the Fluffy's Blueprint mod. I managed to figure out what the issue was. Basically, if whenever you select something with a blueprint, well, then whenever you go to export it, like if you rotate it, then it's going to export whatever you have even rotated, right? So like if I rotate it like this and then stop, then I export it, then it's going to export it rotated. So you don't want to do that. All right, anyway, so enough about the rooms. I think you get the idea. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to focus on putting some encounters in here. So for the encounters, the encounter system itself is fairly complicated, but it's not too bad. I try to have it do most of the work for you, so all you have to do is get everything set up. Everything is based on spawners. Now, spawners themselves, don't think I can actually spawn any right now. So the spawners themselves are actually going to be invisible buildings, or even visible buildings. Like if you want to do like a hive or something that's spawning units, then you can. But what we're gonna do is that we're going to go ahead and set up our defs to recognize and look for certain units. Now, for the types of units who are going to be in here, usually the best place to look is obviously with what we can spawn, and let's not make it too crazy. So what I might actually end up doing is doing tribal. Let's see. So yeah, so I might end up just doing tribal archers and warriors again. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and do that and get that set up. So right here we see the pawn kind def, tribal warrior, and up here you see tribal archer. And these are going to be the two things that we need. So let's go ahead and swap over and get this done. Okay. So if we go back and we go into our thing def buildings, here we have our RPG buildings and our spawners. So we're going to go into the spawners. Okay. So for the most part, this is going to be similar to the Labyrinth key, where this is just going to be something with a comp property, right? So for the most part, a lot of these values you can set depending on what you need. I use the spawners almost exclusively as invisible spawners, so I have everything set to where you cannot select them, right? And that they're basically invisible. So let's go ahead and start filling this out. So for the def name, this is going to be the spawner. So we're going to be putting. Okay, so okay, like I said, it's a little complicated. So let me just go ahead and tell you what we're going to be doing here. So these spawners are going to be indicating certain numbers of units that are going to be spawning. The spawners are going to be listed out inside of the encounter defs over here. So this is my encounter def. And down here we actually have a list of our enemy spawner names. And this is what we're going to be building up. So before we can make our encounter def, first we need our spawners, which is why I'm starting there. Alright, so for the spawners, the first one we're going to do, let's just make it nice and easy. Alright. Now once again, these are going to be invisible, so you don't really have to worry about them too much. To make them invisible, if you look inside of the core, so I'm going to go back, inside the core, textures, adventure, you can see that we have the spawner one, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. So there we go, and that should give it this graphic, which is nothing. Alright, everything else is looking good. So the description, once again, you should never see this thing, so we don't really need to call it anything fancy. Alright, now for the real stuff. So down here is player false. Otherwise, it's going to spawn the pawn to the player's faction. Thirds between spawns, so this is going to be your ticks between spawns. So if you're going to do like 10 things spawning, if you want them to spawn once every second, then you would go ahead and do 60 here, right? Because it's 1/60th of a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put them to 30. Yeah, so there's gonna be a half-second interval between whenever they spawn. Number to spawn. This is the melee. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and do 2 of them. The pawn kind. We said that it was tribal _ warrior. All right. All right. So for newborn, false. Even though maybe you could, and that could make for some pretty hilarious times. Self-destruct. So this is if it destroys itself after it blows its load. We're going to say true. Is proxy. So this determines if it is going to be proximity triggered. And we're going to say true. So basically, if you get within range of it, then it's going to start spawning people at you. Basically, I don't want to put enemies on the map ahead of time because you're going to have a tendency to wander. Their needs are going to drift. It turns into a whole thing. So I chose to do spawners instead. All right. Damage switch. So this is basically it'll drop its load if it drops below a certain % damage. This is that % damage. Let's put it at 50, even though it doesn't matter. Get drops. This is how I'm able to make the spawners also spawn loot. I do it quite easily by making these things cost stuff. I give it a cost amount, and then whenever it self-destructs, it'll drop what it has. But for right now, we're going to say false. Proxy radius is going to be the number of tiles that it scans to try to detect your people to trigger. I'm going to give it 10. Lord job is going to be the job the pawn has when he comes out. We're going to have assault. Faction def name. So right here, you actually don't have to worry about that. This is mostly for if you're using a another mod with this. So for example, if you're using Sick Boy Wee's Warhammer mod, then you're going to need to go ahead and put in a faction there. So use faction false. Is searched. This right here allows for searchables. We're going to put it as no since it's triggered by proximity. And button label. So all of these we actually don't have to worry about because once again we're not going to be putting a button on here. Okay. And congratulations, we now have a enemy spawner. So what we want to do is we want to save this as an XML. And then we want to copy the def name, and we're going to jump over to our encounter def. So the encounter defs, you're going to set up, so it's going to be 1 def per encounter. The encounter defs themselves can have however many spawners associated with them as you want. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. So for example, let's say that I wanted to put 2 of these spawners in there. Bam. So now each one spawns 2, so that's going to be a total of 4 baddies coming at you. So for the def name, standard fare. So this is going to be d underscore so it's going to be a melee pod. Over here, the label actually doesn't matter. So for the loot spawners, this is going to spawn alongside of our enemy spawners, and this is if you want to put in loots. We're going to go over that in a little bit, so I'm just going to leave it blank for right now. Encounter level, this is very important. So if you read up over here, first off, I kind of broke down some of the fields. Up here, though, we have the notes about the encounter level. The main takeaway, though, is that, so first off, it's going to be between 0 and 100. and you want to kind of stay away from the extreme. So I recommend kind of floating between 10 to 60, right around there. To where 10 is the easiest, 60 is the hardest, but you can go all the way from 0 all the way up to 100. And basically, this is going to set how deep in the dungeon this thing has a chance of spawning. But it's also going to, but just because it has a chance it's exactly that. It has a chance. It's not guaranteed. That's It's not guaranteed to spawn at certain locations. So you could still have a blank location deep in the room. You have to read up on it for more information. Okay, so encounter level, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to 10. It's a fairly low one. Actually, let me put this a little bit higher since it's a little bit more difficult. Put this to 30. Spawn spread, this is going to be how spread out the spawners go. Let's go ahead and make it, I know the room width is 6, so I'll put this to 6. Is mini boss. This is if you want a specific encounter spawned at the end of the instance, or rather at the furthest, at the deepest part of the instance. So basically, yeah. So if you do mini boss true and you set the encounter level to 100, then it's gonna force it to spawn at the very end of the entrance. Likewise, if you set the encounter level to 0, then that's going to make it the default. And basically, then you'll never have a chance of nothing spawning. This is going to be the default thing that will always spawn at every node if something else doesn't spawn there. And that's if you set that to 0. All right. Anyway, so yeah, pretty much sets it up right there. Now we have our first encounter def. And what we're going to do, we're going to copy this name. And we're going to jump on over to our labyrinth def. And we are going to go down, let me do labyrinth def A. And I'm going to come down to encounters. Where are we at? So right here we have our encounter def names. And we can go ahead and list it out. I'll go ahead and put some down here too. All right. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how much we screwed up. Thing looks pretty good though. Right, oh, that's my blueprint. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back into the game. All right, so here we go. Let's start up a new one. Once again, I really should at least start saving the damn game. Oh, let's see what happened. Oh. How silly of me. Okay, so I think I forgot to save it as an XML, so let me jump back over. And let me come over here. So first off, my encounter def is still an XML, so I'm going, it's still a text file, so I'm going to save this as XML. See, I had a funny feeling that I was forgetting to do something. So save that. All right, and everything else up there is in XML. Okay, good. So now we get to sit through that entire reloading process again. The joys of modding. I've actually had a few requests to put out more videos on how to mod. doing like let's instead of let's play, let's mod. So I might actually do that. I'm not sure if people actually want that, but I've had a few people asking for it. So I mean, it takes quite a bit of time to make these. Get this. I guess it doesn't really take that much time. Not like I got any software to do any editing, you know. I need more money to get some software, right? Patreon, what's up? Okay. Here we go. Alright, so let's see what we got inside. Oh. Oh. I guess we have to go run some poor chap through there, don't we? Alright, so let's see what we got. Spawner tribes person. Whoa! So as you can see, it didn't get very far. Apparently there was a spawner right here in the early part. In which case, actually, let me make this a little bit more interesting. Oh. Alright. But yeah, so as you can see, we have enemies spawning in. I might go ahead and put glowers on the encounter so you can see where they're at. The idea, though, and I think it's pretty obvious, is right now we have encounters that are spawning in the hallways. And then there's also going to be encounters that are going to spawn inside of these rooms. Now, right now, unfortunately, still have a lot of rooms sealed up. You want to avoid having sealed rooms. You want to put a room in everything, or at least some method of getting in and out of the rooms, because I have it to where encounters will spawn inside of the rooms. The general idea here is that it's going to look at the labyrinth itself and see where, how far back every point is in the labyrinth going back. And then it's going to put in an encounter there that's basically proportional to how far back it is. So let me go ahead and spawn another pawn on this side. Yeah, poor T ain't looking too good over there. So maybe the spawner radius of 10 was a little bit much. But either way, though. But you see everything else worked out, right? We have our tribals. They're all melee. Oh. I need to see if I have any encounters on this side. As you can see, my guys are trying to get to me. Because I have it on assault, basically all these guys are going to try to find my last dude. Uh-oh. Oh shit, oh shit. Alright, but anyway, so yeah, so these are the encounters. Pretty much, if you put glowers on them, then you can actually see where they spawn in at, or if you just, make them visible. But yeah, so what's going to happen though is that they're going to spawn in the hallways and they're going to spawn in the rooms. The more encounters that you set up, the more diversified it can be. Oh, son of a bitch! I weren't watching any of that, were you? God damn it! Wow, fail. Here we are. Oh shit. Okay, well you kind of missed I guess not really that much, but but yeah. So the idea though is that as I go deeper into the dungeon, I end up getting more spawns. God damn it! I have to reshoot this whole video. No, y'all just deal. Y'all know what the hell's going on. But yeah, so just play around with it. Y'all saw how to set these up. Once again, the more you do, so you can do a wider variety of enemies. If you're doing different mods, then you can put whatever pawn kind def you want and spawn whatever you need. Alright, so I think this video has dragged on long enough. I'm over here forgetting to switch the damn camera and shit, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it. On our next video, what we're gonna do is, well, what we're gonna do is we're going to add yet another labyrinth. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, another labyrinth. Can you believe it? I know I can't. But okay, but yeah, so what we're going to do is that I'm going to do another labyrinth. So what you've seen so far is linked labyrinths, where we have two labyrinths or multiple labyrinths on one map. The next thing is going to be doing a chain of labyrinths, in which case we're going to have one labyrinth end with the beginning of the next labyrinth. So let's go ahead and end this video right here, and I'll see you next time.